Okay, so we're going to do a live edit of this image here today. And if you're joining us, then hopefully you'll learn something. So this is Capture One, the program that we're using right now. It's a raw image processor. So I've done some work in this program already. This tutorial is mostly going to be in Photoshop. So I'll just turn the layers on, and then you could see as we go through turning these layers on the changes that have been made through here. Okay, so once we do that, let's export. Okay, so ideally this is the finished product right here. This is what we want to try and get to. And as we let's see. We've got 3 screens going at the same time, so navigation is going to be a little bit tedious, but as long as we can get we can show you guys exactly what's happening. So this is the finished product that we want to get to, and before, after, before, after. Right? So you see the differences. Okay. Let's close that for a second. Go back into Capture One. Export variant. Always export as a TIFF. I mean, that's just what I prefer personally. So let's start from scratch. Okay, now getting here is just a matter of cropping. See, you can say crop the image. Right here. So original image size is this big. Okay, so that's the original image size. Now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to capture this area right here. Sorry, let me undo that. Don't crop. I wanted to capture this area right here because I felt like the detail, or the thing that drew most attention for me was the eyes, the area of the eyes, right? So let's crop that back in. And you always want to have a balance to this as well, right? So zoom back in. If you want to see the balance of an image, here's a ruler. So you see this area right here, that is a little bit, her nose needs to be fixed right here because it's actually not perfectly centered. So let's start with the initial liquidation. And never work on your first layer, your background layer, because you always want to be able to go back to the original, even if all you want to do is see the before and after, right? So anyway, we will start. Okay, so you see the nose right here. What I want to do is I want to get a fairly decent sized brush. I want to just nudge the nose slightly. It's not totally off, it's just slightly off. So here is your before, here's your after. See that slight change? Now you may think that people are not going to notice this, but subconsciously they will. I mean, beauty is based on the balance of the face as opposed to someone puts makeup on, they want to apply it evenly on both sides of the face. So it's all about balancing the face and the visuals when people are looking. Okay, so let's mark some areas that need some work. Let's see. So this is the planning stage. Always plan before you start to edit your image, right? So the key to a successful image is to ensure that you don't take away the texture of the skin, because the texture of the skin is what allows people to have that sort of connection with the image. If it looks too good, people will not believe that it's a real image. They'll know automatically it's been photoshopped. So let's just start marking off the areas that we feel needs some work. Okay, and try not to get rid of things like the mole over here. So if you see this mole, right, these are very identifying markers for this specific individual. I mean, her friends know her because she has a very identifying marker. You see that right there, the mole over here. All right, the most famous supermodel out there is Cindy Crawford, and she's got a mole, and she had a decision to make: keep the mole or take it off. And there's nothing wrong with pieces like that. So anyway, you see these right here. I am just marking these little, I don't know what they are, maybe like little pimple bumps or something like that. But mark them so that you know what you're going to be fixing. Now here's something for you, and this is something that many people will be embarrassed about, but everyone has it. Doesn't matter who you are, everyone has these. This is all peach fuzz right here, and that's not a good thing. I guess maybe it'll depend on the culture, but typically you don't want these, especially in an editorial photo. So all around the lower lip, you see them starting to pop up on the side here. Right? And then this kind of texture here right under the eyes, you don't want to get rid of it, but at least minimize it slightly so that it evens out. Alright, so you could see sort of where we're going with this. Okay, so this is a general overview, right? We can turn this on and off. So you know where we're going to start, how we're going to attack this image. Okay. So let's start the process. So the tool that we're working with right here is the healing tool, not the clone brush. Clone brush will be used, it's just that we won't use it at the moment. So let's start healing in areas that we had initially marked. And you'll see as I turn on and off these layers, you'll start to see the difference. And the difference is pretty significant. And I will zoom in to sort of show you guys that before and after once I'm done in this little area here. If I'm not answering your messages, I apologize. It's can't do two things at a time. Hopefully once Teresa is available, maybe she can jump on and start answering your messages. I know she's pretty busy today, so. Okay, so let me zoom in. So you guys can sort of see that area right now. And let me turn that on. You see that? Once I turn it off, that's your before and after. And when you pull away from it, you have a much cleaner surface on that nose. Right? And that's just our initial fix. So we've got a bunch more to do on the cheeks and some on the forehead. And then of course the peach fuzz that's around the mouth. And even the nose right here, you could see there is peach fuzz. And we'll get rid of all of that. And remember, the ultimate goal is to get from this point to to the initial image that we we showed you at the very start of the live broadcast. Okay, so quickly let's get in and let's do this as quick as we can. So bear with me, and if this isn't the greatest outcome, just know I am trying to do this as quick as possible. And you can see actually the final edited image in our pictures post. Always use a soft brush, always. At least for me. I mean, it depends on your preferences, but for me, I always do use a soft brush. Depends on what you're trying to do, I guess. Right, I don't want to get rid of that mole, but I will clean up around it. Right, sometimes they may have a mole, but it doesn't quite look like a mole in the image itself, right? So simply because of the lens that's being used, or whatever the case is, right? And if that happens, just get rid of it, because you don't want people guessing, is this a mole, is this a blotchy spot on her skin, what is it, right? So don't leave them guessing, just take it off. Alright, so this is the first time I am broadcasting live on this thing. I know Teresa did it last time, but hopefully we can start doing more of these. But I will take you through the process as quickly as I can, so that you don't get too bored with it. And I always sample from skin that is nearby, because you want to maintain the same texture consistency around that area. If you don't, it's very, very noticeable. Right, so I will go in. See, I'm trying to get rid of this peach fuzz here. So this is where we would use the clone stamp tool, because we want to match that sort of dark patch here, right? And I don't go with a too high of a flow, because you want to build up these transitions as opposed to being very aggressive with it and sort of throwing caution to the wind. Now it's better for you to build up the transitions. So let me show you something real quick. This is the before. You see, now you're starting to see the differences in the skin, right? Even with the peach fuzz that was over here, you see that before and after. Right? So generally speaking, the skin, other than the peach fuzz around her mouth, the skin is actually pretty clean, right? And that was the initial nose correction right there. Remember how it was slightly crooked? But if you go like this, that's the original, that's the after. So you guys let me know. I'll stop for a second. You guys let me know if you want to see the peach fuzz get taken out. If not, I will just continue onto another step other than fixing the skin itself. So you let me know in the messages. Keep going with a thumbs up or thumbs down. I will move on to the next big step. 3, 2, 1. Okay, I see hearts. So I guess hearts means keep going. Alright, I'll keep going. I will. So you see this peach fuzz right here. Right in this area. You can see it. So let me turn on this helper layer that we had, just so you can sort of visualize it. So let's get rid of that peach fuzz. Now with a very small healing brush, not the clone brush, start to sample in the general area and start to paint these peach fuzzes out. And sorry, it's not painting, it is a brush, but it's a healing brush. And see, the difference is painting will take away the texture, and that's the last thing you need, because you always want to keep the texture. So your images don't look like Samsung filters, basically. Samsung Beauty Face or whatever it is that you might be using. You know, those are generally, people spot those from a mile away. And, you know, we're in the world of Instagram, and I'm sure everyone applies these filters. However, when you see a professional image that is uploaded, you can automatically tell with a trained eye, maybe, but many people can tell that it is a much more natural look. So the whole concept is that you want to give the illusion of perfection without allowing people to know that you've perfected the image. So let's see this. See that peach fuzz? See how it's disappearing? So let's keep going. And for anyone that does use the beauty filter, I apologize. It's not an insult. Okay, now here we have peach fuzz, and it's a little bit darker. You have like a bit of a darker area. So this is a little bit harder, but doesn't matter. Doesn't mean that we can't do it. So we will continue to clean this up, make it fairly seamless.
Returning visitor.
Just ignore those message prompts. Got a few programs running in the background, so okay, now let's try this. The before and the after. Before, after. So you see that difference. Right. Get rid of some of these black hairs up here. And if you want, you can sort of increase your brush size. It'll help. Right? Be careful. You don't want to have an area that just looks like you've smudged it. Always try and maintain the texture in your image as opposed to just a blotchy section in your image. So you see that right there. And we see some over here. We can quickly get in. By the way, you know, this is something that anyone can learn. It's just a matter of having dedication to doing this. There you go. You see that before and after. Just really quickly get in. Increase the brush sizes. So this right here, it's hard to tell if it's a mole. I would get rid of it altogether. See how that disappeared, right? So you got the before and you got the after. Right. Now, I'm not sure exactly how many people are watching, but regardless, we will finish this broadcast. And if we get more visitors, then great. If not, we will continue to build the audience, right? So that texture that we were talking about earlier, we have a fair bit of it, and it is pretty strong texture. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that the transition of that texture is very gradual. So here's the texture before, texture after. If you see that before and after. Sorry, this is the before, this is the after. And people are always afraid of this area. You know, they think that these are bags under the eyes just because they have a dark spot under it. And that's not true. I mean, typically, regardless of who you are, you will have these dark spots. Bags is a very, very apparent look. You will see, and I will just simply draw it out for you so that you can sort of understand what I'm talking about. Bags would be something like this, where there's a hard transition, right? And you'll see that sort of overlapping of the skin would overlap. Right? So anyway, these aren't bags. These are just something that we all have, and it is a matter of toning them down a little bit. You see the difference in the highlight here and there, slight difference, and we just need to transition them properly. So let's start with the transitions, the evening out the tonal values. So we're not talking about the color of the skin, but we're talking about the dark to light tones of the face. Okay, so just real quick, what we're going to do is, this process is called dodge and burn. And let's just add a noise layer to that. Delete that. Okay, so the black and white layer is so that we don't get bombarded with color, because currently what's happening is this color, when we turn it on, it's very distracting. So we will be distracted by the color as opposed to simplifying it for us, because all we're after here is the tonal values. So you see how this area is darker than this area right here. So what we want to do is we want to make this transition go smoothly into the light areas, and then the under eyes, the parts that we were just working on that people refer to as the bags, we want to transition this sort of darkness into this sort of lightness with a better and smoother transition. And this is, I guess makeup artists call this contouring in a way, right? So if you notice that on the nose, they'll put some highlights right on the bridge of that nose right there. They'll put some highlights on the right underneath the eyebrow. I don't know what this area is called right here. You guys can comment. I'm sure you will let me know. And over here, and then on the cheekbones, it's always a little bit lighter as well. And then they darken right underneath those cheekbones. So in a way it's contouring, but what we want to do is, when we contour, we want to make sure those transitions of light to dark are smooth. We don't want patchiness, right? So and that is called dodging and burning. So we will start, and this one we will use the brush. Okay, flow, let's go, I always go 2%, and it may not look like I'm doing anything, but you will see that once I start to turn the layers on and off, you will notice that difference. Okay, so dodging is the light colors and burning is the dark colors. So let's start to transition this spot right here. Okay. Let's turn this on and off. I'm not sure how much you could see on your end, but I'm turning this on and off. Okay, and that's just a matter of properly transitioning these dark spots right here. right? So this spot right here is a little bit too harsh, the way it transitions. So we start to attack that area a little bit, and we just turn it on and off, on and off, right? And we can always burn as well. So that highlight right here was a little bit too apparent. So let me just turn that on and off. You see that highlight sort of meshing in with that skin again, right? So it's a very powerful tool, and I would definitely recommend that if you're going to master something in the process of retouching, that it is the dodge and burn process, because it is very powerful, and when you get good at it, that's what will make you stand out from the competition. So we are continuing with the process. And ideally, we never lose that skin tone. Remember, not the skin tone, sorry, the skin texture. The whole idea here is we want to keep that skin texture. So let me just turn this on and off for you. That's with the... You see how her skin is just... Those transitions in lights and darks are just so much better. Okay? And let me just get that quickly. Oh, Zahra. Okay. Thank you, Zahra. So I guess that's called brow and bone. Yeah, there you go. Sorry, it took a second to read your messages. So, what's next? This right here, if you see the hair and these little light spots here, they're pretty distracting. Actually, they're very distracting. So what I want to do is at least minimize these distractions, and let me go into let me create a duplicate layer. Okay, and I will convert that. Let's go camera raw. Okay, so you can't see what I'm doing here. Let me just bring this screen down. Give me 1 second. Okay. So I did that because the only thing that matters to me is this right here. Right? So everything else is a distraction. Now what I will do is start to apply just really quickly. So that you guys can sort of start to understand where oops. You get that. Now this is a really messy way of doing it, but typically I'm only doing this because I want to show you guys somewhat of a finished image. Right? So you guys can see that right there. I'm going to soften these edges here. And I am... So you see how all that stuff on the edge can be distracting, right? Those flyaway hairs, sort of unmaintained. Now we're in focus, and what matters is this face right here. That's the most important part. Okay, so we can do a bunch of things. Ideally, what I do, you see how I've zoomed out here? It's very, very small, right? Because this helps me identify areas that need to be worked on, because it's sort of like painting a picture or an image, whatever it is, and stepping away from your work. When you step away a few meters, the colors start to blend in, and then you can see imperfections. You can see where there are drastic imperfections from one tone or one color to the next. And it's always about, at least with beauty retouch, it's always about that sort of easy transition from one tonal value to the next, right? And so I zoom out until something makes sense here, and then I can see that right underneath the lip, that's a little bit bothersome, right? So we wanna start to at least fix that. Let's go with the dodge and burn process again. So you can repeat the dodge and burn process as many times as you want. You know, nothing here is telling you that you are limited. I mean, you're in Photoshop. The whole idea is to perfect your image without making it look perfect, as strange as that might sound. Right, so I'm just quickly touching up areas that I see. And if you were sharing my screen directly, you would see the difference. You would know exactly what it was that I was doing here. And by the way, for anyone that's going to watch this on YouTube, I am broadcasting live on Instagram, and so I'm not necessarily talking to myself. I am actually somewhat interacting with the viewers. Okay. Now you see this is distracting because it's like almost empty. It's an empty lipstick, I don't know, outline or whatever it is that you want to call it. So all the women out there, I am sure you can easily comment and inform me. So I'm filling in these gaps so it doesn't look so harsh. And the good thing about this is I can also layer this burning right here. So if this wasn't enough, what I would typically do is, it's really simple. I just go and create another layer for burning right there. Because each layer that I'm creating here has a set maximum value. So now let me just take that off. You see how, just take a look at those lips on the edges there. See how those fill in better? Right? And because of that, I don't like that sort of transition. Let me get that up there. Okay. Slightly darken these bottom parts of the lips, because you see where the light is hitting. It's hitting from the top and then casting a shadow on the bottom of her lip here, or casting that light on the bottom of her lip, and then underneath the lip there is the shadow. So just darken it slightly. I want those nicer transitions. Alright, and let's push, I don't know what this is, but let's call it the rim of her lips right here. So I want to push the highlight on this. Because you're almost, what you're doing is you're almost defining those lips. Contouring, right? Contouring, as we were saying before. So let me turn this off. Let me turn it back on. You see the difference there. See how you literally are reshaping. Give me 1 second. Okay. Okay, so back to this. Okay. Now, we can bring out some areas more. A lot of people will dodge and burn this process, but what I like to do is I go into the levels because it's a more even process when I do it this way. I go into the level section and I just kick up these highlights right here, right? Make that face a little bit brighter. Okay, and then let's do that again. And what I want to do is I want to target the eyes right here. Okay, so we create a mask. Oh, sorry. Create a mask and let us work on these eyes. So let me turn this on and off for you so you can see, take a look at these eyes. You see the difference as we start to work on them. And all I'm doing is bringing more attention to the eyes, right? We want to draw more attention to these eyes without having it be too fake. And then the cool thing about this is, let's just zoom in, go direct to this eye. Cool thing about this is that we can sort of play with let's take a look at this. Watch and learn, as they say. So sorry, let me get this flow up to 100. You're not seeing it on your end yet, but you will. Watch. See these eyes? See how I'm changing the color? Right? Okay, so here's the original color. And let's just push it slightly. So you see how now they jump out at you? And you can always mess around with the saturation of it. Depending on what we're doing, I'm not a big fan of saturation, to be honest. So you can see those initial lines that I drew. You see them, how they're popping out like that? Okay, so there's an overall theme to this, and the color theme here is that it's got a reddish tone to it. And when we want to color grade the image, we want to look at this goes back to basic theory in art, right? When you have your color wheel and you want to find analogous colors or primary colors or contrasting colors, whatever it is that you may have that sort of work well together, right? So ideally what we want to do is we want to contrast this image. We want to bring contrast to this image. So this is called color grading. So when we color grade, go into color balance. So for this, in the shadows areas, in the areas of shadows, shadows are typically very cool colors. Typically, okay, they're cool because they're distant from you. You know, they're the furthest thing away from you, and so you want to give that impression that it's a cold place to be, sort of. You know, I'm trying to explain this as best as I can, but generally speaking, that is what we're doing here. We want to give out a certain vibe or feel to this. Right? So, you see how it's a pretty red image. And now we are adding in that blue. So the blue and the red are working well together, right? They're working off of each other, and they play well within the image. Let's see, something about these eyes is not really speaking to me yet. So let me work on these eyes slightly more. So you see that sort of difference there. I can turn it on and off. Now what we want to do is let's duplicate these layers and let me sharpen this. So right here. Okay. Okay, so here's where we start to push these eyes more. And sort of get that detail back into the image. Right, because what's important here is to grab this detail and bring it back in. And there you go. So, like I said, if you want to see the final image, you can find it in our Instagram feed. It's not too far in there, maybe like the third or fourth latest image, but that's typically the process. So if you have any questions, just message us and we will get back to you. Thank you.